10 out of 10. Best effects ever. Like a regular Barracuda, but only more acidic. What's up, everybody? Today I want to talk about Condemned 2, released in 2008 for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Now, what exactly is the atrocity that is Condemned 2 Bloodshot? We are looking at a first-person psychological horror game taking place in the fictional Metro City. Let's talk about the gameplay. Now, Condemned 2 on its own is kind of unique. It's a very melee-focused game as opposed to other first-person games which are typically shooters. The fights you witness are usually pretty brutal, but sometimes they look really silly. It's pretty easy to say the melee isn't polished, but it's still way better than the gunplay. One thing I couldn't really get my head around is that the main character can't carry ammo.
Fucking thing sucks!
The game also features combo moves which do extra damage, a jab to push enemies away, and then there's an ability to block, but other than that the combat feels repetitive as hell. The game also features a special voice attack near the end of the game, but the buttons used to activate it are the same as blocking, which I thought was a poor design choice. This game also features an upgrade system where as you complete levels you unlock new items like more health, a stun gun, rubber soles which somehow make you more stealthy, and the ability to place 2 waypoints on the map for some reason. This is a linear game, why the hell do I need 2 waypoints? The game also features an investigation mode where we collect evidence and draw conclusions on previous events. Sometimes the investigations are very clever, other times, not so much. As far as optimization goes, I've heard this game is great on Xbox 360. PS3 not so much. The frame rate tanks during some pretty simple scenes. For 2008 standards, the environments are pretty rough around the edges. There's back alleys, factories, backwoods, bowling alleys, nightmares, a ski lodge, and a freighter junkyard. When I compare this game to similar titles like Call of Duty World at War or Gears of War 2, graphically they were much more pleasing. And I find it strange, this is a AAA title from Sega. They definitely had the budget. I should mention this game also features horror sequences, but I didn't find them that scary. They had these creatures called ceiling hangers, which are kind of scary, they latch onto you. There's like these random jump scares throughout the game, they weren't that great. There's like these tower monsters that'll jump on you during your nightmares. And every once in a while there's these... Okay, you got me that time. As far as difficulty goes, the game is pretty tame. They give you regenerating health, which makes things much easier. Let's talk about those weapons. As far as melee weapons go, there's actually a pretty good variety in game. The most basic weapon that we have access to is our fists. There's also an assortment of melee weapons such as wooden boards, pipes, crutches, bedposts, wrenches, swords, crankshafts, you name it, they've got it. There's also an assortment of firearms we can find throughout the game. There's a 22 silence pistol, semi-auto handgun, a revolver, assorted shotguns, a submachine gun, an assault rifle, and a nail gun that has unlimited ammo. One weird weapon I found was there's a crossbow during the museum level. It reloads way too quickly, it felt way too unrealistic. There's also these throwable dolls during the doll factory level. I think they're kind of neat, but when they explode, they almost sound like the blaster effect from Star Wars. Maybe you guys will hear it too. The last weapon that Ethan gets is the voice attack near the end of the game. Basically, he emits a certain frequency that causes enemies' skulls to shatter. Kinda neat, but really weird. Now, for enemies, we have vandals, meth monkeys, steroid thugs, metal burns, museum thieves, exploding dolls, the doll woman, the thief, Yogi Bear, SWAT officers, and cult members. Now, this game has some pretty weird enemies, but the only thing I think might be weirder is the plot. Please be aware, there are spoilers ahead. The campaign of Condemned 2 features a washed-up detective named Ethan Thomas with 5 supporting cast. They are Rosa, who is Ethan's partner, Director Farrell, Agent Dorlin, Agent Pierce LaRue, and Serial Killer X. As we open, we see Ethan in a bar, struggling to be an ideal member of society. If you're looking for a character arc here, you're not going to find a lot. Ethan then exits the bar and is attacked by a group of men. At the end of the fight, he is pulled into a nightmare. In this dream state, Ethan tries to follow the uncle of the previous game's antagonist, Malcolm Van Horn. He is the uncle of Serial Killer X, also known as SKX. We'll get to him later. After trudging through a tar-filled nightmare, we fail to reach Van Horn. We then emerge from the nightmare to be saved by Rosa and Agent Dorlin. We learn they were sent to pull Ethan into an investigation by our old boss, who is the director of the Special Crimes Unit. After some brief exposition, we are sent to look for Van Horn with agents Dorlin and LaRue. After a bit of extensive searching, we find Van Horn's body, and it's so brutal I can't even show it. As the team moves to exit the area, Ethan is betrayed and left for dead. Luckily, he manages to escape to a nearby doll factory. It's here we fight a terrific boss called the Doll Woman and dispatch her after 3 rounds of battle. I feel uncomfortable with hitting a woman, but throwing explosive dolls at her seems socially acceptable for some reason. We then analyze the body of Van Horn back at SCU headquarters, where we have another nightmare sequence. Learn the mayor was killed at a local museum, go to investigate, learn that serial killer X was the culprit, kill an armored thief, and then decide to go investigate Van Horn's mansion in the woods. At the mansion, we learn about Ethan's past and how his parents were part of a cult called the Oro, which Van Horn has been battling his entire life. We learn that the Oro has access to a special sonic technology, which they've been using to cause increased violence in Metro City, and want to use the same sonic technology to control the world by becoming its protector. Who writes this shit? It even turns out that the cult holds high-level positions throughout society. Lastly, we learn that Ethan is the chosen one, known as the Remedy, who possesses a special vocal ability which can destroy flesh and bone. He is even prophesized to be the one who ends the Oro. Anywho, we return to Metro City to try and find Director Farrell, who was recently kidnapped by SKX. We sneak onto a bus to confront the recently captured SKX, only to have him escape. In our pursuit of SKX, we save Director Farrell. It is then revealed that Dorlin and Farrell are members of the Oro. Luckily for Ethan, Dorlin and Farrell are not on the same page on the plan for Ethan. Dorlin wants you killed, as opposed to Farrell, who wants to recruit you and bring you into the society. Dorlin then pushes Farrell, literally, to kill Ethan, but Farrell decides to help Ethan, and in his final act, unlocks his sonic abilities. Then, for some reason, SKX saves Ethan, calling it a future investment. Sequel bait at its finest, if you ask me, but this game doesn't get a sequel. Thank God. At this point, Ethan contacts a magician who is a former member of the Oro to learn more about their headquarters. This leads Ethan to a ship junkyard where his final battle with Agent Dorlin takes place. Fun fact, I can't do QuickTime events to save my life in this game. We then beat up Dorlin, jump to a mysterious ladder, and then use a diplomatic solution to get rid of Dorlin.
Boot to the head.
We then cut to the President of the United States, who learns the Remedy is among us. He then collapses, implying he's a member of the Oro. The game then comes to an end. Holy shit, this plot is bad. This is the type of story you put a bag over and pretend it doesn't exist.
Damn it! You scared the crap out of me, Ethan.
Where's your car?
So, in summary, the combat is kind of fun, the boss designs were kind of cool, and the premise is interesting as long as you ignore the first game. For negatives, I think the plot was terrible, the horror wasn't that scary, and the game is not optimized well for the PS3. Buy it on Xbox 360 if you dare. But overall I have to give this game an E, and I do not recommend you play this game. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you watching to the end of the video. And lastly, but most importantly, I hope you all have a great day. Oh, it would have been so much easier if you had just died in the second level.
Mr. Thomas, you're with me.